Imagine standing outside the iron gates of the most prestigious Ivy prep school in Manhattan, a place where the air smells like expensive cologne and old money, while you're holding a rusted bicycle and a bag of crushed soda cans just to survive the day. That was Leo Vance, a 16-year-old foster kid who looked like a ghost haunting the golden halls of St. Jude's Academy. While the children of billionaires stepped out of chauffeured SUVs and pristine blazers and $1,000 shoes, Leo stood by the window of the AP Calculus wing, his eyes glued to the whiteboard where the world's most elite mathematics teacher, Mrs. Sterling, was commanding the room with a voice like sharpened steel. Mrs. Sterling was a legend in the academic world, a woman who had never been proven wrong in 30 years of teaching, and today she was tackling the infamous Black-Wood equation, a derivative so complex that it had appeared in textbooks for 15 years as an unsolvable challenge for high schoolers. She told her class of 60 students to stop thinking and start memorizing because this specific problem was a trap designed by Ivy League professors to filter out the weak, and if they missed a single step, their dreams of Harvard or Yale would evaporate instantly. The classroom was a vacuum of silence, filled only by the rhythmic clicking of her chalk as she mapped out a solution that spanned 3 boards. But outside, Leo's fingers gripped the cold iron bars until his knuckles turned white, his brain screaming that she was heading toward a cliff. His mind, a chaotic but brilliant machine shaped by nights of studying his late mother's old college textbooks, saw the numbers as a glowing lattice of logic, and as Mrs. Sterling confidently placed a negative sign inside a bracket in the 4th line, Leo's lips moved on their own. "It's wrong," he whispered, a sound so soft it should have been lost in the wind, but it hit the window with the weight of a sledgehammer. A student named Julian, the wealthiest and most arrogant boy in the class, caught the movement and sneered, pointing at Leo's dirty face and shouting that a trash bin rat was staring at them. Mrs. Sterling froze mid-stroke, her ego bristling as she marched toward the window and flung it open, prepared to call security on the intruder. But before she could speak, Leo looked at the board and then at her, his voice trembling but clear. "Ma'am, if you solve for the limit using that constant, the entire function collapses. The textbook has had a typo for over a decade, and you're about to repeat it. If you've ever felt like the smartest person in a room that didn't even want you there, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're about to see what happens when the invisible kid destroys the world's most powerful ego. Please like and subscribe for more stories of hidden brilliance." The atmosphere in the room shifted from mockery to absolute shock as Mrs. Sterling, a woman whose name was synonymous with mathematical perfection, felt the heat of humiliation rise to her cheeks. She didn't call the guards immediately. Instead, her pride demanded she humiliate this boy in front of her students to prove that a homeless teenager could never understand the depths of higher calculus. She grabbed Leo by the shoulder of his tattered hoodie and dragged him through the door, his muddy boots leaving a dark, jagged trail across the pristine white marble floor of the classroom, while students like Julian filmed the scene on their iPhones, laughing at the trash boy who thought he was a genius. Mrs. Sterling thrust a piece of chalk into Leo's hand and screamed that if he was so brilliant, he should fix the problem himself, warning him that if he wasted even 1 second of her time, she would have him arrested and his meager possessions burned. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird, and for a moment the weight of his poverty, the hunger in his stomach, and the holes in his shoes threatened to swallow him whole as he looked at the 60 faces staring at him with pure disgust. But then he looked at the chalk in his hand and remembered the nights in the basement of a foster home where his mother, a brilliant mathematician who had been stripped of her career by a cruel system, taught him that numbers were the only things that couldn't lie to you. She had told him that math wasn't for the rich or the poor, it was for the honest, and as Leo's eyes scanned the board, the fear vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating focus that made the air in the room feel heavy. He didn't just fix the 4th line, he wiped the entire board clean with a single sweep of his arm, causing a collective gasp from the students who couldn't believe his audacity. He began to write, the chalk clacking against the board like a machine gun, redefining the entire architecture of the mean value theorem using a logic that Mrs. Sterling had never seen in any curriculum. He wasn't just solving a problem, he was correcting a history of academic failure, moving through steps of integration and limits so fast that Mrs. Sterling's jaw slowly dropped. By the time he reached the final line, he'd uncovered a hidden variable that turned the 15-year unsolvable equation into a beautiful, simple zero. He placed the chalk on the table, picked up his bag of cans, and stood there with his head bowed, waiting for the blow that usually came when he spoke out of turn. If you can feel the power of a mother's legacy shining through the darkest circumstances, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the triumph of the human spirit. Silence had never felt so heavy in the history of St. Jude's Academy as Mrs. Sterling frantically pulled out her reference manuals and even her own PhD thesis, her hands shaking as she realized that this boy, who lived on the streets, had just done what the greatest minds in the country had failed to do for a generation. She looked at the board and then at Leo, her voice breaking as she asked him who he was and where he learned to think in 4 dimensions, only for the door to slam open as Mr. Blackwood, the billionaire owner of the school, stormed in with 2 security guards to demand the vandal be removed immediately. Blackwood shouted that Leo was a danger to the school's reputation and a threat to the safety of the elite students. But Mrs. Sterling did something that shocked the entire institution. She stepped in front of Leo, shielding him with her own body, and told Blackwood that if he touched the boy, she would resign and go to the press with the story of how St. Jude's tried to throw out the greatest mathematical mind of the century. Just as the guards moved forward, an old man named Arthur, who had been the school's janitor for 40 years, walked into the room holding a weathered, yellowed envelope that had been hidden in the staff lockers for years. Arthur revealed with tears in his eyes that he had known Leo's mother, Sarah Vance, who had been a rising star at this very academy until Blackwood's father stole her work and she was cast out into the streets to die in silence. The envelope contained her original research and a letter to her son, telling him that her genius was his only inheritance and that he should never let the world dim his light. The room erupted as Julian, the boy who had mocked Leo, stood up and took off his own designer school blazer, placing it over Leo's shivering shoulders in a silent act of penance, while the rest of the class began chanting Leo's name. Mr. Blackwood was forced to back down as the board of directors, fearing a scandal and seeing the boy's sheer potential, offered Leo a full residential scholarship and an honorary position as a student researcher. Today, the 15-year-old error in the calculus textbooks has been corrected, and at the bottom of the page it reads, "Corrected by Leo Vance, grade 12." A testament to the fact that talent doesn't care about the balance in your bank account or the clothes on your back. Leo didn't just change his own life, he redeemed his mother's name and proved that the smartest person in the room is often the one the world tried to throw away. Thank you for watching this journey from the shadows to the spotlight. If you believe that every child deserves a chance regardless of their zip code, please hit that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on Leo's victory. Subscribe to join our community of those who know that true wealth is found in the mind, not the pocket. Thank you for your support and never stop looking for the genius in the people the world ignores.